Welcome to Tales from the Tropics, where every breeze carries a secret and every wave brings a story to shore. From hidden love letters buried in ancestral homes to forbidden romances under Caribbean moonlight, we bring you dramas rich in soul, culture, and truth. Set against the vibrant backdrop of the islands, our stories are woven with tradition, betrayal, legacy, and love. Here, every voice matters, every past has a heartbeat, and every tale is rooted in the rhythms of the tropics. Subscribe now and journey with us into stories that heal, awaken, and remember. These are the Tales from the Tropics. They said the past was buried, but some secrets refuse to stay hidden. A legacy torn by betrayal. A love story interrupted by lies. Now, a new generation returns, not just to remember, but to rewrite the truth. Some stories are buried in silence. This one will be spoken.
The hum of the airplane softened as wheels met the tarmac. Asha Sinclair sat upright in her seat, the Caribbean sun bursting through the window as if to announce her arrival. She squinted against the light, her fingers curled tightly around the worn leather journal on her lap. This was not a vacation. She wore tailored beige linen trousers and a sleeveless cream blouse, her usual Chicago professional aesthetic now clashing with the relaxed island mood. Her long, dark curls had been pinned into a low bun, sleek, intentional, but strands had escaped during the flight, softening her sharp features. She didn't bother fixing them. The plane doors opened and heat rushed in like a warm breath from the earth itself. Asha stepped out into the sunlight, instantly aware that she was somewhere her spirit had longed to be, even if her mind hadn't caught up yet. Antigua smelled of salt, spice, and something sweet, maybe ripe guava or mangoes in the distance. The air had weight, scented and humid, and it wrapped around her skin like silk. She walked through the small, lively airport terminal at VC Bird International, brushing past travelers in floral shirts, barefoot children clinging to beach balls, and customs officers with curious eyes. "Welcome home, love," said the woman stamping her passport. Her voice was musical, the accent warm. Home. The word caught her off guard. Asha gave a tight smile and moved along. Outside, the taxi line buzzed with conversation. Patios decorated with hand-painted signage, small food stalls selling sugar cakes and fried bakes, and taxi drivers leaning against their vans with lazy charm. She approached one. "Excuse me, can you take me to New Winthorpe's?" she asked. The driver, a stout older man in a Rastafarian knit cap, raised a brow. "You sure you want Winthorpe's, miss? Ain't much out that way 'cept bush, goats, and maybe a good breeze." "I'm sure," Asha replied, placing her suitcase into the back seat. "I'm looking for my grandmother's house." He opened the door for her with a curious nod. "She Antiguan?" "Born here," she said. "Left when she was young. Claudine Sinclair." The driver paused. That name rings a bell." Asha turned to look at him, but he said no more, only smiled faintly and started the engine. As they drove, the paved roads curved through hills lined with banana trees, pods hanging heavy on their limbs. Villages appeared like quiet poems, pastel-painted homes with rusting tin roofs, cricket fields lined with coconut trees, and verandas full of aunties in floral house dresses drinking bush tea and waving casually at passing cars. Goats grazed beside roadside churches, calypso played softly from a nearby radio. Asha watched it all, silently absorbing the rhythm of a place that had lived in her blood, but never in her memory. Then she reached for the journal in her lap, tracing the initials embossed on the cover. C.S. It still smelled faintly of rosewater. She turned to the last page. If you're reading this, you've come back for me. I left too much behind. Go to New Winthorpe's. Find the place where the sea meets the stones. That's where I lost everything. Her heart pounded as she reread the words. She didn't know exactly what her grandmother had meant, but she knew she was about to find out. New Winthorpe's wasn't marked on most maps, but it lived. The village was nestled in a green hollow between hills. Chickens darted across dirt roads, and breadfruit trees arched over brightly painted fences. A hand-painted sign nailed to a crooked post read, "Welcome to New Winthorpe's. We small, but we mighty." Asha's driver stopped in front of a cottage with lavender shutters and a faded white gate nearly swallowed by hibiscus. "This the Sinclair house?" he said. "Been empty long time, but we never touched it. Out of respect, you know?" She stepped out and stared at the home. The cottage looked like it had once been lovingly cared for, now partially reclaimed by nature. Vines crawled up one side. The paint was peeling in places. Yet, it stood proud, defiant even, like the women in her family. Asha thanked the driver and wheeled her suitcase down the short path, the stones uneven beneath her leather sandals. She pushed the creaky gate open and stepped into the past. Inside, the house smelled of cedar wood and thyme. Dust floated lazily through sunbeams slicing across the hardwood floors. Family photos, still in place, stared down from the walls, sepia-toned and unbothered by her intrusion. She touched one gently. Her grandmother as a young woman, barely 17, in a cotton dress with a nipped waist and lace collar. Her hair was pinned back, her smile wide and wild. It didn't match the woman Asha had known. Claudine in Chicago had been regal, precise, hair always in a chignon, words careful, emotions tucked away like linens folded too tightly. Here, she looked free. Asha placed the journal on a table and looked around. This place held more than memory, it held the truth. She walked to the back veranda and stepped outside. And there, beneath a palm tree, hammering a piece of driftwood into shape, was a man. He wore loose, sun-bleached linen pants, barefoot in the sand. His skin glowed with sun and salt, and his movements were fluid, focused. He didn't see her at first, but she saw him, and the way the light curved around him like it knew him well. She cleared her throat. "Excuse me." He looked up. His eyes were steady, deep brown with flecks of gold. He took in her pressed blouse, fitted trousers, and wary posture. "You lost?" he asked, setting down his chisel. "No, I'm staying here," she replied, stepping closer. "It was my grandmother's house." He studied her a moment longer. "Claudine Sinclair?" She blinked. "Yes." His jaw tensed slightly. "She was known here." Asha tilted her head. "You say that like it's complicated." "It is," he said simply, "but not your fault." He offered his hand. "Zion, I live just down the beach." She shook it. His grip was firm, warm. She pulled away first. "I'm Asha." "I know," he said, already turning back to his carving. "The island talks fast." She stared at him, unsure if he was being rude or just honest, or both. "I'm just here to understand her. I don't mean to stir anything." He looked up again, this time holding her gaze. Sometimes, understanding stirs more than silence ever could. And just like that, he turned back to his work, leaving her standing there with the ocean at her back and a storm beginning to form in her chest. The next morning, Asha wandered down to the beach with a steaming enamel mug of bush tea in her hand. Ginger, lemongrass, and a hint of something sweet she couldn't name. The sun was still climbing, its golden arms stretching over the horizon and gilding the sea. She hadn't expected to see him again so soon. Zion was perched under a sea almond tree at the edge of the sand, chisel in one hand, block of mahogany in the other. A low battery-powered speaker played roots reggae softly beside him. He was shirtless now, wearing only faded cargo shorts rolled up at the knee. His back was lean and muscled, a tapestry of skin kissed by years of salt and sun. She hesitated before approaching, but curiosity was a louder voice than caution. "You always work this early?" she asked. He didn't look up. "Wood don't wait. When the spirit come, you carve." Asha stepped closer. "What are you making?" He paused, then turned the wood toward her. A woman's face was emerging from the grain. Strong nose, full lips, wide eyes closed in serenity. It was hauntingly familiar. "She looks like your grandmother," Zion said, finally meeting her eyes. Her breath caught. "You carved Claudine?" "Not exactly. She come to me in a dream last night. Didn't say a word, but she was angry." He chuckled. "Maybe because you're digging up things she buried." Asha frowned. "You don't even know me." "I know energy, and yours came to this island searching, but not knowing what it's looking for." She narrowed her eyes, then sat in the sand a few feet away. "You always talk in riddles?" Zion shrugged. "Only when the truth too heavy to carry plain." They sat in silence for a few minutes, the sound of waves mingling with the scrape of chisel against wood. Then he said, without looking up, "Marcus Lewis was my grandfather." Asha turned sharply. "You're his grandson?" Zion nodded once. Asha's heart thudded. "Then you already know that they were in love?" "Yeah, whole village knew. They weren't subtle." She sipped her tea. "Why did they split?" "She didn't say much in her journal." He paused. "Something happened. No one talks about it. Some say she betrayed him. Others say he let her go." "And what do you think?" Zion looked at her, his eyes calm but unreadable. "I think both of them carried shame."
The Sinclair cottage had always held its breath for her. Asha walked room to room that evening, taking inventory not of things, but of echoes. The home was simple but filled with character, mahogany furniture hand-carved with floral details, doilies draped over backs of chairs, lace curtains yellowed with time. She found the kitchen still stocked with old enamelware and a dusty mason jar of dried bay leaves. The scent of time and smoke clung to the walls, like memory refusing to fade. In the bedroom, she discovered a carved cedar chest at the foot of the bed. Inside, folded linens, sepia photos, and a stack of letters tied with faded ribbon. Her fingers trembled as she untied them. They were addressed to M.L. Marcus Lewis. None had been sent. One read, "Marcus, I wanted to stay, but I feared what staying would mean for you, for us." The whispers became knives. "Your mother turned her back on me. My father called me a disgrace, and still, I would have stayed, if not for what happened that night." But she never explained what happened. Asha read every letter, heart pounding. Then she opened the wardrobe, and tucked behind old dresses was a hidden pouch stitched into the back lining. She unpicked the thread and pulled out a small, ornate locket containing a photo of Claudine and Marcus, arm in arm, under a flamboyant tree, smiling like the world was theirs. Asha sat on the bed, her chest tight. Why had no one in her family ever spoken of this? Why had her grandmother left so much unsaid? 2 days later, the village celebrated Emancipation Day with a local carnival, smaller than the national parades, but deeply rooted in community spirit. Asha didn't plan to go.
But Mama Vita showed up at her door unannounced that morning, wearing a vibrant Madras head wrap and a broom in hand. "You can't come back to the island and skip carnival," the elder declared. "Your blood too old for that kind of foolishness." "I don't have anything to wear," Asha protested weakly. "Then borrow mine." Half an hour later, Asha was dressed in a cotton off-shoulder top printed with red and gold, a wide madras sash tied around her waist, and gold bangles on her wrists. Her curls were loose, finally wild and free under the sun. The square outside the community center was alive with music and movement. Drums pounded, children danced in circles, vendors sold sweet potato pudding, sorrel, roasted corn, and peanut sugar cakes wrapped in wax paper. Zion was there, leaning against a tamarind tree in a sleeveless tunic, chatting with a group of elders. Their eyes met across the crowd. He smiled, slow, deliberate, and raised his rum punch in silent toast. She found herself smiling back, heart fluttering. But the moment was broken when an older woman passing by leaned into Asha's ear and whispered, "Claudine's granddaughter, eh? Be careful. That kind of love don't end clean." Before Asha could respond, the woman had disappeared into the crowd like smoke. Later that evening, as the drums softened and the sky bruised purple with dusk, Asha sat alone near the seawall, a paper plate of cassava pone in her lap. Zion joined her, handing her a chilled bottle of ginger beer. "You look more like her now," he said softly. "Who?" "Your grandmother, free, but still hiding something." She turned to him. "I don't even know what I'm hiding." Zion took a slow sip from his drink. "Then maybe it's time you stop running from the question and start walking toward the answer."
The sea was restless that evening, its rhythm sharp, not soothing. Asha stood ankle-deep in the surf, skirt rolled to her knees, toes buried in cool sand. She'd walked the beach to clear her head, but questions chased her like waves. Behind her, Zion approached quietly, hands tucked into the pockets of his loose cotton pants, barefoot as usual. He wore a loose, sleeveless white tunic, slightly damp from his earlier swim, and his dreadlocks were tied back with a faded strip of madras cloth. "I thought I'd find you here," he said. She turned, brushing wind-swept curls behind her ear. "This beach has a pull." He nodded. "It remembers." Asha looked out at the horizon. She loved him, didn't she? Zion stepped beside her. More than she admitted. But love doesn't always survive the weight of history. She hesitated. "Do you know what happened?" He bent down, scooped up a small driftwood carving from the sand, an unfinished mask. "My grandfather never talked about her directly, but sometimes, when he carved, he hummed a song only she used to sing. He built boats, yet never left the island again." He paused. I think he felt betrayed, and ashamed of how quickly he believed the worst. Asha's voice dropped. "She left because someone lied. I found her letters. She planned to stay." Zion stiffened. "Then, someone wanted them apart." Asha turned toward him, wind brushing across her cheeks. "Why?" He looked down at the sand, then back at her, pain flickering in his eyes. "Because back then, people didn't like when love crossed lines, of class, of skin, of legacy. My grandfather was from nothing. Your grandmother was from almost white and educated." He let the truth settle before adding, "And some folks still don't like it." Asha felt the weight of her heritage in her chest. She wanted to run from it, and yet, here she was, tangled in its web. "I don't want to become them," she whispered, silent, scared, bitter. Zion reached out and gently took her hand.
Then don't. Their fingers remained laced as the sun dipped low, bleeding gold into the waves. By morning, Asha was seated at Mama Vita's kitchen table, sipping thick bush tea that smelled like earth and fire. The old woman, dressed in a flowing purple dress and head wrap, moved slowly but deliberately, as though her body obeyed a rhythm older than time. Her walls were lined with dried herbs, candles, and glass bottles filled with dark oils. A giant conch shell sat on the altar, beside a carved wooden statue of Yamaya. "You ready for the real story?" Mama Vita asked, sitting across from Asha with a bone-deep stare. "I am," Mama Vita began. "Your grandmother and Marcus, they were soul-tied. But the village was small, and tongues were long. A woman named Annetta, jealous of Claudine, told Marcus she saw her with another man. She even wrote a fake letter to him, signed with your grandmother's name." Asha gasped. "She forged a letter?" "Yes, child." Marcus believed it, broke off the relationship, never told her why. By the time he realized the lie, she was gone, with you inside her belly. Asha clutched her tea tighter, fighting tears. "My grandmother lived her whole life thinking he abandoned her." Mama Vita nodded. "And he lived thinking she betrayed him. Neither of them healed." Silence fell heavy between them. Mama Vita lit a small candle and whispered a blessing in dialect. "You came back to finish what they couldn't," she said softly, "to turn pain into peace." That evening, Asha returned to Zion's studio. She found him shirtless, back turned, arms moving rhythmically as he carved a mask with eyes closed in sorrow. She watched for a moment, then stepped in. "I spoke to Mama Vita." He stopped carving. "She told me about Annetta," Asha said. "About the lie." Zion dropped the chisel onto the bench. "I always felt something was missing. My grandfather wasn't the kind of man to give up without cause." "He didn't," Asha said. "He just never knew the truth." She walked closer, placing a folded letter on his work table. "My grandmother's last letter. I want you to read it." He stared at it for a long time before picking it up. As his eyes scanned the words, his chest rose and fell deeply. "She forgave him," he said, voice low. "Yes." He looked at her. "Can we?" Asha stepped closer. "We can try." Then they embraced, not with urgency, but with aching relief, as if love could, in fact, be rewritten. The wind was soft that morning, carrying the scent of salt and wet earth as Asha stood outside the cemetery gate. It was quiet, sacred. Zion stood beside her in a white short-sleeve button-down, linen trousers, and brown leather sandals. Around his neck hung a carved mahogany pendant shaped like a closed eye. He'd made it the night before. Asha wore a soft yellow wrap dress, the hem brushing her calves. Her curls were pulled back in a low puff, adorned with a silk scarf Claudine once wore. Around her wrist, a single gold bracelet, once her grandmother's. She stepped between the headstones until she found the one etched with care. Claudine Sinclair, beloved daughter, keeper of secrets. 1939 through 2019. Asha knelt and placed a sealed envelope at the base of the stone. Inside it was the letter she'd written last night, not just for Claudine, but for herself. "You lived with love in your heart and silence on your tongue, but the truth didn't die with you. I carry it now. I forgive you, and I understand you. I will not be afraid to speak what you could not." Beside the letter, she placed a small carved mask, Zion's tribute. The eyes were open. Mama Vita stood at a respectful distance in ceremonial dress. Deep indigo, gold embroidery, layers of beads. She held a clay bowl smoldering with sweetgrass and thyme, circling the grave 3 times in silence. As the smoke rose, Asha felt the tension lift. The grief still lived, but it had shape now. She wasn't drowning in it anymore. Zion slipped his hand into hers. No words were needed. Not today. 2 weeks later, the island had returned to its steady rhythm. Waves crashing like breath. Roosters crowing at dawn. The sun painting the hills in amber and flame. Asha sat on the front step of Claudine's house, her house now, watching locals pass by with bundles of plantain and gossip on their lips. Inside, she had begun cleaning, repainting, opening windows that hadn't felt fresh air in years. But she wasn't leaving. Chicago was behind her now. A familiar whistle echoed through the yard. Zion strolled up the path, a canvas bag over one shoulder, shirt loosely buttoned, and carved bracelets on his wrist. He carried a new carving. This one was different. "Thought you might want to hang this inside," he said, placing it on her lap. It was a mask of 2 faces, one old, one young, joined at the mouth, both eyes wide open. The grain of the wood swirled like sea currents. "Legacy," he said, "what we pass on when we choose truth." She nodded slowly, tears filling her eyes. "I'm staying," she whispered. "I know," he said softly. "This island already claimed you." She looked up at him. "So what now?" He knelt in front of her, his face calm, strong, and lit by the golden sun. "Now we build, together." Their lips met, not in urgency, but in quiet knowing, a kiss that honored the ones who came before, and the love they never got to finish. The secrets they kept had shaped their past. But what Asha and Zion chose to share, that would shape the future.
The past held silence, but healing came when truth was spoken. Asha and Zion now walk forward, not with secrets, but with legacy. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe for more tales from the tropics.